Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Salt Lake City Snowhawks expansion franchise here on Madden 25, as we're going to start here in the red zone, taking on the Cleveland Browns, starting this episode a little bit differently, as we're going to start this one with a 3-point lead here in crunch time, week 5, as each of these teams 1-3, desperate for a win, as you don't want to sink too far beneath 500, as McDonald going to hook up with Carlos Alvarez there towards the sideline, and Lucas McDonald, our franchise quarterback, or at least we thought so, facing a lot of scrutiny here to start this year 4 season. But he can put all that to bed with a good performance here, although going to be swallowed up there trying to get back or past the line of scrimmage. He was swallowed up there at the line of scrimmage. And we'll see what we elect to do here with less than 3:30 now remaining. The Cleveland Browns were shut out last week in a 31-0 loss against division rival Pittsburgh, as we are going to kick the field goal, make it a touchdown, or at least a touchdown plus an extra point would win the game for Cleveland, you would think, if they are able to get that far down the road. So now 17-11 as our offense really continues to struggle here in the early goings. But Lucas McDonald, very efficient this game. I think now 24 for 29 through the air. So one touchdown to go with that. No turnovers, as Cleveland now a chance to take the lead here late, as they are the home team. Now 3 minutes remaining, and the Browns do come off a playoff appearance last season. Third-year quarterback Emmett Dalton is the starter now, and he did start last season. Not his rookie year, though, but his second year in the league. He did go on to start last year, as Cleveland did sneak into the playoffs. And now trying to sneak a win here at home early on in this year 4 season. Dalton just going to let it rip right down the field. Has a man open, but just overshoots him by about a step or two, as that was Jaquan McMillan. We've seen him kind of get beat here in recent weeks, really waiting for our rookie Gilmore there at safety to come back. And then we'll move Matthew Torrance back into the slot, as that is Chase Brown, signed in this past free agency, coming over from division rival Cincinnati, staying in state. As now a 3rd and 2 for Cleveland at the 36. Of course, 4-down territory at this point in the ball game. Dalton off the play action, going to try and go underneath there, as he does have David Njoku, as he fights off a tackle and pulls forward for the first down. Very good strength on that play on display from Njoku, the longtime Cleveland Brown. He's been around for pretty much everything in the past decade or so at this point, as now underneath Emmett Dalton does have a man, and Cleveland does have a receiver, Quincy Rhodes or Xavier Rhodes, former 6th overall pick out of Michigan, reminiscent of Braylon Edwards back in the day. And now Dalton will give for Chase Brown, and that's Matthew Torrance just talking about him, as he's there to meet Brown pretty much at the line of scrimmage. So that will take us to the 2-minute warning, as we lead here by 6 points. It has not been pretty, but we'll certainly take a win this time out here in week 5. And we are going to do a quick sim of the next 3 weeks and pretty much hit the halfway point of this year 4 season, probably go over some scouting in the process. Dalton down the field had a man, but over the head or the outstretched arms of his intended receiver, so that will bring up a 4th and 3, and I think that was Rhodes, who I was just talking about, former top 10 pick. And now Dalton here, big time play needed on 4th and 3. Jerry Jeudy was in motion, and now in some miscommunication, Jerry Sexton was over there. Huge game last week on Monday Night Football. A sack and an interception in crunch time, gave it back to our offense on a silver platter there late in the game, where a touchdown could have taken the lead and eventually the win, but our offense just could not deliver. And it hasn't been too great here this week, although Cleveland, of course, a tremendous defense with Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, maybe the best corner in the NFL. Now Christian McCaffrey's had a solid game, only 2 that time. Now 1:50 remaining as Cleveland burns a timeout. Tank Bigsby checks into the game, and he will get the carry here, and not much doing, only 1. Again, the Browns call a timeout. Could set it up to give other offense another chance here. McDonald on the dropback, breaks a tackle, going to fling that, and that will be knocked down. Intended target was Carlos Alvarez, but Newsome the second was there to bat that one down. Good play on his behalf, and a pretty good play there by McDonald as well to break that first contact. You really want to see him persevere on those plays back in the pocket, as we do get the punt off that time, and we are going to get bailed out with a crucial roughing or running into the kicker penalty. That is just inexcusable on the part of the Cleveland Browns. You almost feel some empathy for him in that spot, as that all but seals the win here. You hate to win a game on a call like that or on a miscue like that, as now we can just kneel it down from here on out, but it looks like we will call a run, I hope, at this point, as we'll go right back for Bigsby as he's brought down for a loss. Next week, I believe we're at Seattle for our second division game of the season. Again for Bigsby, this time to the outside, as he just barely manages to get past the line of scrimmage. So now 3rd and 10 with 55 seconds remaining at the 27. As we will go back to the ground game here for Bigsby. Has a lane this time, as he will have some space up the sideline down to the 12-yard line. And a kneel down will get the job done here. Some bickering after the play there. And we do come out in the victory formation. I feel like it's been a long time coming, as we do snap a 2-game losing streak now. And our Snowhawks are officially 2-3 now on this Year 4 season, halfway to last year's win total. And we'll see the type of results we get in these, full-out sims we're about to embark on. Hopefully we can at least go 2 out of 3 in those remaining games. I will take that to this point, as it's been a mixed bag to start this Year 4 season, to say the least. But, we just got to keep looking ahead, as we have a bunch of draft capital, a lot of cap room to work with in the coming free agencies, just to continue building around Lucas McDonald. But you know how it goes. It's a week-to-week league here, so another bad game for McDonald, and then it goes right back to questions of him being the franchise quarterback. But with 2 first-round picks, we certainly have a lot of flexibility. Maybe we do explore drafting a quarterback, maybe late first round or in the second round if one of the top guys falls to us. But all hypotheticals to this point, as also our first-round rookie receiver Carlos Alvarez with a touchdown catch in this game, his 3rd of the season, as Lucas McDonald finished 24 for 32. 239 through the air for 75% and 1 touchdown, very clean. And his opposition, Emmett Dalton, also from that same quarterback class, as I think McDonald was selected like 6 picks prior to that of Dalton. As when I just go over to the Snowhawks, rushing McCaffrey was 18 for 52, not the most efficient, although he did score his 4th rushing touchdown. Bigsby 4 for 16 there on that final drive. Receiving, Marvin Harrison Jr. got going a little bit, 7 for 84. Rookie Carlos Alvarez, 7 for 51, a score, and matches Wicks with a 7.2 yards per catch. Also 42 for Christian McCaffrey. You like to see that. Blocking, 2 sacks allowed by Samuel and Colton Miller, as Miller has kind of been a disappointment since coming over from Vegas. I didn't think he was going to be, anything all that great, but I thought he would at least be an upgrade in that spot. A couple sacks for Van Ginkel, 1 for Caleb Patton, as Cardi went 1 for 1 on field goals, as we'll continue to move along here through this Year 5 season and simulate this upcoming week against Seattle. But first, we'll take a look at Mock Draft 1, as it is hot off the press, and Chicago is projected to have the number 1 overall pick after winning the division last year. They're projected to go from first to worst, as they're projected to go A.J. Hawkins, tackle out of Alabama, who is projected as the number 1 prospect on the board right now. We beat them 33-7, I think it was, back in week 2. And then projected at number 2 is another team we just beat. So both of our wins this season come against the bottom 2 teams based on the projection. At this point, they're going Levi Falk, tackle out of Auburn. And we'll certainly be in the market for both of these guys, as we are probably going to go offensive tackle. 2 first-round picks for us, so stay tuned down the board. Randy Lawson projected 3rd there to Tampa Bay as one of the top pass rushers in this draft, followed by DJ Carter and then Josh Cooper. So 3 straight pass rushers off the board there to round out the top 5, followed by Will Hall. I think we have him as our second offensive tackle in this year's class. He out of Boston College, projected to the Dallas Cowboys to help out last year's first-round pick in quarterback Ben Davis. Then the Jets, a safety, Dakota Michaels out of Texas Tech. The Chargers, another pass rusher here in the top 10, along with number 10 here, Ben Foster out of Kansas State to Houston. And then the first receiver, we get Philip Barlow, deep threat out of Colorado to the Carolina Panthers. And then at 11, George Jackson projected to the Las Vegas Raiders. And I think he's right now our top prospect on our team board. And I wish we could take a bigger look at him from this menu. Oh, actually, we can as we click on him. 6'4", 308 with a impact block already. An agile guy, but great to elite for acceleration, agility, change of direction, and jumping. Good to great for speed. And a C for pass block power, which holds up as an agile offensive lineman. So I think George Jackson is going to be very, very good as we have him 25% scouted to this point. And then at 12, we're projected Jalen Meredith, just because he was the first player we put on our board, still being on Madden 25. I don't know if they changed it in the next installments, but we can't even reorder our draft board, which is pretty wild. But he was just the first player we put on it, so that's just how it is for now. As Eric Oliver, a pass rusher out of Temple, projected to the Jags. Colt McCormick, you got to love that name as a pass rusher. Maybe that would be our pick at 12, if not maybe a trade up to ensure Jackson maybe in the top 10 in this scenario. Another tackle to Cincinnati. Tyrone Springs to Pittsburgh, our top interior defensive lineman at this point. Jonathan Street to Minnesota, along with Taylor Goddard out of Tennessee to the Packers. Two stand-up pass rushers that we like. Jalen Boley, a tackle, but more of a power scheme guy at 6'6", 336. Deion Allen, safety out of Ohio State to New England. I think maybe our top safety on the board at this point. Also, Jason Stewart out of Washington. We like him. And then they have us going Keontae Lowry again. He's projected round 3 to 4. And obviously, you never want to double up on a running back in the first round. But just being as he was that spot on our board, number 2, he's just projected to us. Quincy Richards, top tight end out of Penn State to the Giants. And the Super Bowl this year is projected a rematch of the Chiefs and the Eagles, as the Eagles projected to go London Baptiste, wide receiver out of Notre Dame. And speaking of the draft, since we haven't really gotten a look at the Seahawks roster, a division rival, we will take a short look at some of their keystone players to this point, and it all starts with Byron Snow, the first overall pick in last year's draft. Look at his rookie season, 3,856 passing yards, 38 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions, as he completed 67%, off to a very, very hot start already. Probably a future MVP, as we said, the first overall pick in 2026, the reigning offensive rookie of the year out of LSU. So we certainly have our work cut out for us battling him over the course of this franchise. But we do catch a break in this week's matchup, as Kenneth Walker, one of the top backs in the league, is out with a quad strain. A very lucky break for us, as Condre Miller, free agent signing, will be filling in his place. And then at wide receiver, 2 receivers here at 93 overall in DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith-Njigba, as Metcalf has stayed the course here over this franchise, still with the Seahawks. Noah Fant at tight end. A decent offensive line there, 85-80 between left tackle, left guard, but their center, only 71, is injured as well, so a little bit weak here on the interior. And then Abraham Lucas, 80 overall at right tackle. Defensive line is solid. Linebackers are solid. And then corners, a 92 here in Devon Weatherspoon, and a 91 overall here in Tariq Woolen. And I think he might be set for free agency, as if that were the case. I don't know, he has 2 more years left. I was going to say he would definitely be a target of ours, with Julian Love and a second-year former first-round pick Damon Finch at safety. So for the first time in this year 4 season, we will just do a clean sim as we advance to the next week, where I believe we will be hosting the San Francisco 49ers in our 3rd divisional contest of the year, as we did just fall there to the Seattle Seahawks. And we will take a look at the stats. We lost 30-24. Our offense seemed to finally have gotten something going. And again, we did not even turn the ball over, as Lucas McDonald, 290 through the air with a touchdown. He completed 64%, but just outdueled here by Byron Snow, who we just previewed. 339 passing, 2 touchdown passes, and 81% completion. Just phenomenal numbers for him. Rushing, Christian McCaffrey, 15 for 59. McDonald, 2 rushing touchdowns. Carlos Alvarez, another touchdown, so make it back-to-back weeks for him. As Harrison Jr., 5 for 67. Wicks, 6 for 65. Andrews, 3 for 44. And McCaffrey, 5 for 40. So as we said, our offense came to play this week, but our defense, I guess, couldn't get those timely stops, as Van Ginkel adds another sack. And kicking, Joshua Carty made his only attempt. So we're now 2-4, and we'll get through these next couple games here versus the 49ers and then at Baltimore. And then next episode, we're going to watch the full game on Thursday Night Football in one of our last games of division play, as we'll only have one more matchup with the Rams and then a very late season matchup here against Seattle. So 2-4. Hopefully we can get back in the win column. As I said at the top, you don't want to fall or sink, too far beneath 500. So now here in week 7, hosting the 49ers, who enter at 3-3, and our Snowhawks trying to avoid the 2-5 start. But I feel like we've had such a tough schedule here, and we're already 1-6 against the 49ers to start this franchise. So they've certainly been big brother to us. They've won 3 of their last 4 after an 0-2 start. One of those against us back a couple episodes, as I think that was 20-15, although the score definitely does not dictate how actually close it was, as they dominated most of the game, and we fall again here. So again, we get back-to-back losses, as we are now 2-5. Just one more game left to sim here, a road game against the Baltimore Ravens, as we fell there 38-24. So a lot more scoring in the full-on sims, as this time we turned it over 3 times. 2 interceptions for McDonald, but 330 passing compared to Brock Purdy, who went 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in the last matchup. This time 350 for 4 touchdowns, no picks, a long of 91, and he completed 76%. Christian McCaffrey, again, does not perform well in his revenge game, and I think we got to get Derrick Henry and Tank Bigsby a little more involved, but great to see Marvin Harrison Jr. getting going, 11 for 137, a score. Carlos Alvarez, 4 for 62 and a touchdown. McCaffrey, 5 for 48 and a touchdown, so his impact felt there. Blocking, no sacks allowed, which is a nice change of pace. Double-digit tackles for Quay Walker, Jerry Sexton. Tackle for loss here for a few guys. No sacks, no picks. And Joshua Carty, his struggles continue, as he was 1 for 2 on field goals. So now here at Baltimore, I think we'll do what we did last game, where I just picked it up in the 4th quarter, but instead we'll go through all of the key moments and then just watch them as we go along there. So 2-5 our Salt Lake City Snowhawks against the 4-2 Baltimore Ravens, as it doesn't get much easier from here. And then also next week against the Los Angeles Rams in primetime, followed by a matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals, who are just so dynamic. But before we worry about them, we have to take on the Baltimore Ravens. I think it was 5-2, as we're set to enter M&T Bank Stadium and complete the big upset there. But before we do that, I figured we'll just take a peek at the roster real quick. 299 overalls now. Lamar Jackson in his age 30 season. We'll take a look at his contract, see if he's set to hit the market. 11 touchdowns, just 1 interception so far, just under 1,500 passing yards. Broke 4,000 for the 2nd time in his career last season. So yeah, he's signed for another 5 seasons. And there's also Roquan Smith, 99 here at middle linebacker, X Factor, and of course came over from the Chicago Bears out of Georgia. Kyle Hamilton there at strong safety. Nnamdi Madubuike, as they have a strong player in each phase of their front 7. Tyler Linderbaum, one of the best centers in the NFL. Nate Wiggins, a 91 at corner, along with Marlon Humphrey, who's 89. So another good corner tandem. And they even have someone down here, Brandon Stevens at 29 years old, 84 overall. Rashad Bateman, another good receiver there, alongside Zay Flowers. Trenton Simpson, now an 86 overall middle linebacker. Roger Rosengarten at running back. They have Jordan Mason and Ray Davis. I think they split time between those two. Travis Weldon, a superstar tight end at 6'5", 241. Vertical threat, as he had 90 catches last season, 5 touchdowns. For the former 3rd-round pick, made the Pro Bowl last year, so a blossoming star there at tight end for Baltimore. The offensive line in pretty good shape for the most part. Defensively, not as good on the defensive line, aside from Madubuike. A little bit better in the linebacking core. Very good trio of corners there, along with one of the top safeties in the game. So we are going to play the key moments in this one, and I'm really hoping we can go out on a high note in this one. 3-5 just sounds so much better than 2-6, especially considering the great teams we've had to play so far in the early goings of this franchise. So hopefully it gets easier from here, but I'm not so sure if that's the case. I wish it showed like strength of schedule or something though, because I feel like we would have to be towards the top, as we're coming in at 85 overall against the Baltimore Ravens at 87 overall. They have 3 X Factors, or at least 3 X Factors, to our 2. And with that, welcome to M&T Bank Stadium. There's Jerry Sexton, the 2nd-year linebacker out of UW, last year's Defensive Rookie of the Year, a 3rd-round gem we found. And we're going to need a lot more of those in the coming drafts if we're going to compete with teams here like the Baltimore Ravens, who enter at 4-2, coming off a tough loss last time out against division rival Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, as they look to get back into the win column, as do our Snowhawks now, back-to-back losses, looking to get back into the win column, advance to 3-5, as the theme of this episode, don't want to sink too far under 500, as next time out we're going to be tasked with taking on another division opponent on the big stage in the Los Angeles Rams. And as I said, we are just going to play the key moments. So the first one in this game comes on a big third down as the Ravens 3rd and 18 as they are in Salt Lake City territory, but 3rd and a mile. And you would have to hope our defense is capable of a stop here. Lamar Jackson from the 40 going to try and go to his left, and he's going to be brought down for the sack as that's Darius Robinson, former Pro Bowler, 2 years removed, as he's looking to get back on the right track. Kind of slipping here as our starter at D tackle alongside Caleb Patton, who has really emerged this year. So D tackle, D end, areas we want to improve as Baltimore did get a field goal on that drive. And another key moment here, another third down for our defense as Baltimore is in Snowhawks territory again. This one 3rd and much more manageable on 3rd and 4 as opposed to the 3rd and 18 from earlier. Jackson, another drop back there, does get the quick screen off Van Ginkel there to meet the pass catcher out of the backfield, but it will be a first down. And I think later on in that drive, it's going to be 4th and inches at the 32. I'm pretty sure it's the same drive, as again, we will tune in for this key moment. I think it's a pretty good way of mixing it up as far as getting realistic stats and some good gameplay as well. 4th and inches now at the 32. They go for the ground game, and that's going to be swallowed up. Darius Robinson there, Kwity Paye, Andrew Van Ginkel, as 2 of those 3 players were signed last offseason. We spent a bunch of money trying to bring in some quality guys. Mark Andrews on the offensive side included in that bunch, but a huge momentum swing here for Salt Lake City as we trail just by 3. And looking at the quarterback rush leaders, Lucas McDonald there at 4. His opponent in this one, Lamar Jackson, ranking 2nd in the league, as we'll take back to the fast sim here, go to the key moments, as again, no points for the Snowhawks, as Baltimore, another third down here in Salt Lake territory. I feel like it's going to be just a full game of watching our defense in our own zone here against Baltimore. Now 3rd and 7 this time. Lamar Jackson, of course, dynamic no matter what he decides to do this time. Going to try and work around the pocket, but everywhere, from every which way, it just collapsed on him, which will force the 48-yard field goal attempt to double the Baltimore lead. But tremendous pass rush that time. I think it's just a 4-man rush. We haven't been a very aggressive blitzing team, as now on 3rd down offensively, I think this our first look at this unit, a 3rd and 3 at the 36 of Baltimore, as we do go to the ground game there for McCaffrey, and nothing doing as he stopped short of the line to gain. I think that was Madbubuke, if I'm not mistaken, as I am mistaken, but I couldn't catch who it was there on the stop. But 4th and 2, now we're going to play it aggressive. Joshua Carty has been inconsistent as our place kicker. McDonald now over the middle of the field has a man that's caught. Marvin Harrison Jr. going up and getting it. We've seen McDonald over fire on a bunch of, especially on 3rd down particularly. We've seen that a lot as he targets Mark Andrews. And now another key moment on this same drive, 3rd down, now at the 22. And I guess at this point, we'll just let the rest of the quarter play out. 3rd and 6 at the 22-yard line, just near the 2-minute warning, as that one was in the hands of Mark Andrews, dropped a little bit low. Kyle Hamilton in on the coverage. And that's going to go to a field goal attempt now. 39-yarder for Joshua Carty to slash this deficit in half. And he needs this one. That one up. And it is good. So Salt Lake City on the board, not by way of touchdown as we would have hoped, but instead by the way of field goal, as it's now 6-3. We'll see if Baltimore can get a late 2-minute drill going here. They do have all their timeouts. And we'll see if they get any yardage on this return taken from the 5. And that will be brought down. Good tackle there by the rookie Gilmore. 1st-round pick out of Tennessee. Drew Sanders, reserve linebacker, also in on the stop. As we see this graphic again, as 2 of the top 4 rushers at quarterback featured in this game. Now the last play prior to the 2-minute warning, a fake. Lamar Jackson again trying to step it up, and he can't. Andrew Van Ginkel has been a sack monster here in recent weeks, getting home again. And is our coverage really just holding up that well? As now the fullback leading the way on the handoff. And then we get the prompt tackle. So just like that, 3rd and very long. Baltimore backed up all the way to their own 19-yard line. And let's see if our defense can hang strong in another 3rd and very long here. as we try to get the ball back for our offense. 2-minute drill of their own as they try the run, and that's going to be swallowed up by Caleb Patton right up the middle. We talked about him, his third year now out of San Diego State, part of our draft class back in the year one offseason. Does have that star development, so trying to get a running mate with him this year's offseason, maybe in the draft. As I said, we are going to set our focus scouting for the national region, as Dak Kitchen's a fair catch there at the 40. So 148 for Lucas McDonald, one timeout, 60 yards to pay dirt, which would give us the lead, but we'll take points in any way, shape, or form we can get them, especially against a team like Baltimore. As a lane to step up there for McDonald, he does step up into it, just 7 though. And now McDonald on 2nd and 3 as we hurry up to the line, has a man there underneath, as that's Tavion Wicks, his second catch. And again, the hurry up offense, 70 seconds remaining. Mark Andrews motions in and out, or up and down, as McDonald over the middle of the field again has Wicks, this time for the first, as he fights ahead for 14. 56 passing yards now in this first half so far for McDonald, as now just 40 seconds remaining. Now setting up at the 31, a flag on the play, maybe offside. And so far for Andrews, and again, like I mentioned, just out of his reach. And that was offside on the veteran corner Marlon Humphrey, a lifetime Baltimore Raven to this point, former first-round pick out of Alabama, as McDonald there for the first-round pick out of Florida State from this year. Carlos Alvarez now just 9 seconds remaining, so probably the last play, as we do have a timeout going to be sacked, and we do call that timeout, so that will bring up a 45-yard field goal attempt for Joshua Carty, as we could not find the end zone on this last-ditch effort. Now 45 yards, pretty much center cut, more left hash here for Carty, as that one is up for the tie, and it is good. So just 2 ticks now left in this first half of play, as I'll certainly take a tie going into halftime here against a 4-2 Baltimore Ravens team. And now Carty on for the ensuing kickoff, as we're just hoping this one will take us into the half. That one will be kneeled, and of course, we have to go through the trouble of defending one more play here. And now Jackson, looks like they will play it aggressive, as he will take a shot, and that one will go astray, out of bounds. So it's 6-6 here from Baltimore after one half of play. Our 2-5 Salt Lake City Snowhawks try and take down the 4-2 Baltimore Ravens, as we have a battle of the top 2 rushers at the quarterback position, and also Baltimore, a very good defense featuring 99 overall Roquan Smith. And now we will be here for our first halftime update, I believe, of this year 4 season, as for some reason we haven't been able to get to it, but I think I have figured out the method to the madness, as we'll take a look here. Seattle at Detroit, 2 teams we have lost to this season, as the line's now 7-0, taking down the Seattle Seahawks. Not the best game there from Byron Snow, as Jamison Williams, 9 catches for 202 receiving, and a pair of scores for him. And now Philly at Atlanta, as the Eagles, one of the top teams in the NFC, now 6-1, as they lead 21-7 at halftime. The Atlanta Falcons a poor 1-5, so at least we have a team in the NFC right now that is worse than we are. And now Buffalo at Houston. We do own the Bills' first-round pick this year, and a surprising 4-3 record. I thought they'd be a little bit better to this point, as we're hoping the Texans can take them down, as the Texans trail by 1 at half. But tied up here in Baltimore, we're going to keep on playing just the key moments, and in a closely contested game as this is, I'm assuming they're going to give us a lot down the stretch, and hopefully Lucas McDonald can continue to show some signs of growth here after a slow start to the season, and put to rest any idea that he is not our franchise quarterback. But Baltimore here, another drive in our own zone to start, as they have it at our 28, 3rd and 8. Jackson, of course, from the shotgun, as he will take the snap here, sitting at his 35. Plenty of time to throw, as he does find a man near sideline, who is eventually forced out of bounds at the 23. So Baltimore could opt for another field goal attempt here. This one, which would be a 40-yarder, as they are going to keep the offense on the field, so not going for the lead. They want the bigger lead. They want the 7-point lead, not the 3-point lead. They want the knockout punch. Here from the I formation on 4th down. The give for Jordan Mason, and he is stopped short. Our defense has been great on 4th down this season in the short yardage situations. It's just been a shame that our offense hasn't been able to answer off of them. But again, I think that's Caleb Patton there on first contact. Had some help as well there from Jerry Sexton winning off his block. So two guys that we've drafted brought into the organization there in Sexton and Caleb Patton working on that big stop. And another player we've brought into the organization here, Cade Moreland there at left guard, 69, and also Lucas McDonald, of course, our franchise quarterback. A chance to take the lead here in the third quarter as we do not. And now as we advance ahead again, our defense on the field for a big third down. This one, 3rd and 20 in the early goings here of this fourth quarter. Another very low-scoring game as opposed to those full sims where I think each team dropped 30 every game that we simmed. Now 3rd and 20 from the 46. Baltimore back against the wall. As Lamar Jackson is going to go to his right. Thought he would scramble, which maybe would have been the better choice. Could have maybe worked up in a field goal range, but held it in hopes of finding that downfield receiver, which wouldn't come as our coverage has held up very well so far as we forced the punt. And again, we punted ourselves. As actually, I think we have the ball now with only 3:02 remaining in this game. We saw going back to last episode, Lucas McDonald just could not lead that late go-ahead drive there against the Detroit Lions as we fell in that game just 13-8. But this time now against Baltimore at their 44-yard line, tied up 6-6. We'll watch the rest of this one. 2:30 remaining in a tie game here from Baltimore. McDonald is almost intercepted, my goodness. Nate Wiggins, 91 overall corner, and that was a close one. Poor read, poor throw from McDonald, and we got to do better than that. And there goes Darnell Washington in motion, former Pittsburgh Steeler. McDonald going to throw that for Mark Andrews and could not get the arc he wanted as that's knocked down incomplete. Now 3rd and 10 after 2 straight incompletions to start this late fourth quarter drive over the middle of the field. And he had a wide open Marvin Harrison Jr. And I talked about it earlier. His pass is just going, sailing past his intended man. We saw that, I think, going back to week 1, going back to last episode in week 4 against Detroit. And now a pivotal spot here against Baltimore. And it just sails way over the head of Marvin Harrison Jr. And you just got to be better than that in that spot. And that's where the question marks come up of, is he our franchise quarterback? Lamar Jackson is certainly the franchise quarterback here in Baltimore, owed a bunch of money over the next 5 years of his contract. And what are they paying you for? They're paying you to win football games, and a chance for him to lead that right here, as he will give there for Mason, and he will get 5. And we do hit the 2-minute warning as the Ravens trying to secure this late lead, get out of this one at home with a win. 2nd and 5 from the 35, 2 minutes remaining. They'll fake it. Jackson, plenty of time to throw over the middle of the field, has a man open, and that's that tight end I think we were talking about, the superstar tight end, I think just 22 years old. And it's a big-time catch for him there. Jackson in the pocket now at the 50, and he fumbles, and it's picked up by Andrew Van Ginkel. That was Joey Bosa working off the left side there against the left tackle as we forced a turnover. We trade late turnovers, and just like the Detroit Lions game, again, Lucas McDonald has a chance to lead the late go-ahead drive there, as he definitely was not down yet. I think Bosa knocked that out cleanly, as he did there on that replay. It confirms it. And again, Lucas McDonald, you have an opportunity, your chance, your moment here on the road against Baltimore. You can shut everyone up with some points here. Not even a touchdown is necessary, I feel like, at this point, with 1:36 left on the clock. McDonald now from the 50. He will give that to Mark Andrews, but a flag on the play, and that probably is holding. I stand corrected. It was a roughing the passer, a much-needed boost to this late drive. And now for McCaffrey, let's milk this clock a little bit now as Baltimore does call a timeout there first. Crucial penalty there by 96 Elijah Watson. A reserve defensive lineman will go right back for McCaffrey. Some space to run as he will get a good gain, bringing up 3rd and 2 as Baltimore calls another timeout. Kyle Hamilton that time on the stop. So how aggressive do you play it here? A run, of course, you're susceptible to maybe a shorter gain, but we do get the first down. McCaffrey and then some as Christian McCaffrey breaks through, that time for 17 as he's now up to 88 yards. And we are forced to call the injury timeout, though, as he's holding his wrist heading into the locker room. So it probably will be Tank Bigsby and Derrick Henry from here on out. Hopefully one of them can just pound it in here. 1:19 remaining. Bigsby. And he'll be brought down, really no gain, as Baltimore does burn their final timeout. Now 2nd and goal from the 8-yard line, as Derrick Henry checked into the game, former Baltimore Raven, as he will get the give. And really nothing doing that time. So hopefully our AI can manage the clock here effectively, as they are going to burn that one down a little bit. Still 2 timeouts left, as we do get for Henry up the middle. Derrick Henry finds pay dirt here against his former team. His first touchdown as a member of the Salt Lake City Snowhawks, and a timely one at that, as we take the late lead. Season control in this one. Still 40 seconds remaining. Hopefully not too much time left on the clock from Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, but tremendous run blocking here down the stretch. McCaffrey, of course, just went to the locker room. Hopefully nothing too serious, as Joshua Carty now on for the extra point. That up, and it is good, as it's now a 7-point lead, but there is a flag. Again, another roughing the kicker, which we do decline. Kickoff from the 50, as that will sail all the way down, and Baltimore will take over from the 30-yard line. So 70 yards to go for Lamar Jackson. No timeouts to work with, and we'll see if our defense can hang strong. No touchdowns surrendered so far, and that last drive, forced fumble by Joey Bosa, cannot be forgotten. The assist to a crucial late-game touchdown drive, the first touchdown of this game, as Baltimore looking to avoid back-to-back losses. This would be a huge win for Salt Lake City on the road. As I said, looking for that statement win here in year 4. Jackson, the first drop back of this drive, steps up, fires to the sideline. That one, a little miscommunication, I think, that time with maybe Zay Flowers was the intended man. Haven't seen him too much in these key moments. Now 35 seconds. Jackson takes the snap. In the pocket, maneuvering out, going to step up, going horizontal, and then we'll just fire that one out with nothing doing. And I feel like, as we said earlier, in that situation, I don't know why he doesn't just use his legs. He got some space. He probably can get out of bounds. And I feel like a gain there is better than just full-on eating it. Now 3rd down. A quick one, as that is not going to get out of bounds. Rashad Bateman kept in there by Jalen Thompson. And the clock now just 10 seconds remaining. Maybe the last play here. I feel like you just got to heave it deep, as Jackson will just quickly throw that one to the dirt. And now 6 seconds remaining. If you're stopped in the field of play. Oh, that was a turnover. I did not even realize. Oh my goodness. Lost in all the madness. The kneel here, as Salt Lake City will come into Baltimore. And Lucas McDonald has something to say to all the haters, as it wasn't pretty, but it doesn't have to be, as long as you get the long-eluded W, as we did in this one, as John Gruden defeats John Harbaugh in the Battle of the Johns, and we get the victory here. Now 3-5 on this year 4 season, just 1 win short now of our total going back to year 3. McDonald had that bad interception. At that point, you thought the game was over, but Joey Bosa, the veteran, was there to pick up his teammate, and McDonald was there to finish the job, as Derrick Henry, his first touchdown as a member of the Snowhawks, was a big one, as that gave us the lead and the eventual win here at M&T Stadium, as our M&T Bank Stadium, as our Snowhawks advance to now 3-5, and a very encouraging win, as we're set to battle a division rival next week in the Los Angeles Rams. Not the best game for McDonald, 2 picks, but the win is what's most important. A 39.6 rating, and on the ground, McCaffrey 88, maybe his high on this season, and then Derrick Henry, that long touchdown there at the end, or maybe not long touchdown, but big touchdown. Wicks 5 for 68, Marvin Harrison Jr. 4 for 48. 1 sack allowed by Ike McConwu. Defensively, 12 tackles for Jerry Sexton. He's been phenomenal this season. 5 tackles for loss for Van Ginkel and Caleb Patton. Huge games for them. 3 for Matthew Torrance, Kwity Paye, and Darius Robinson. 2 sacks for Bosa, 1.5 for Kwity Paye, Van Ginkel, and 1 for Patton, a half there for Sexton and Robinson. What a game here from Baltimore for our Salt Lake City Snowhawks. And now let's get to our National Focus Region scouting and call it a day here in this episode. And now here we are at the overall NFL draft board for the 2028 Year 4 NFL draft. And the top prospect, as we saw in that mock draft, is A.J. Hawkins. out of Alabama, pass protector at 6'5", 311, C for impact block and C for run block. So a solid start there. Not the most overpowering athlete, but solid nonetheless, especially for change of direction and agility. So definitely a nimble guy. Pass protector probably could fit that agile mold as well. Ben Rivers, the top quarterback here, 6'6", 227, 21 years old out of Florida State. A very strong quarterback class, it seems, as we'll just go over to that position. Glenn Shelton here, third on the overall board, 6', 225, field general out of Nebraska. C for deep accuracy so far, and it does say great to elite for throw power. Then we get Deshaun Montague here out of Texas A&M, a scrambler, and he has great to elite for jumping, speed, and acceleration, and good to great in every other category. So definitely fits that scrambler mold as a very good athlete. Also has A, awareness and break sack, so a very good starting point here for Montague, as he's projected a top 5 guy. And then right behind him here is Adrian Kincaid, 6'2", 227. So 4 of the top 6 prospects in this draft are quarterbacks, and that's what I said earlier. If we have the flexibility and one of these guys slips to the late first round, early second round, maybe we have the means to even take one of them, because few assets are more valuable than a good quarterback and a good young quarterback at that. So we'll see how that plays out, but quarterback not going to be our focus scouting, nor running back. Only 2 round 1 to 2 projections in this draft. Darrell Williams, the top guy out of Ohio State. But we like this guy, Jalen Meredith, a little bit more just because he had a good draft story on him to start the season. 5'10", 199 out of UW. B for carrying, and athletically just solid. Good to great for acceleration, but otherwise solid to good in most categories. So it doesn't look to be the most overwhelming or overpowering running back class, unfortunately, but might be able to find a guy in free agency to add alongside McCaffrey, Tank Bigsby. Maybe one of them don't even make it next year. We'll see how they progress and or regress. Receiver, it looks to be a very deep class with like 8 guys here, maybe even more, with round 1 to 2 grades or projections at least. But we scoured wide receivers last year as we drafted 3, so not really an area of focus this year. Tight end, not really looking at that either. But offensive tackle, certainly a position we're going to be looking at, and already we have Levi Falk here, a top 5 guy at 35% scouted. We saw he was projected second in that mock draft, I believe, to Cleveland. Great to elite for acceleration, agility, and speed, and so far has A for run block finesse, C for run block power, and B for pass block finesse. So Levi Falk definitely on our board right now. Someone we'll be targeting along with Will Hall, tackle that was projected to Dallas. He out of Boston College. A for awareness so far, agile, so he does fit our archetype with great to elite for acceleration, agility, and a good athlete elsewhere with A lead block as well. So I think that's 2 tackles we already wouldn't mind drafting with one of our 2 first-round picks, depending on if we move up or down the board. I don't know that we like A.J. Hawkins that much, especially to warrant that top spot on the overall draft board. But George Jackson, as I said earlier, probably our top guy that we're looking at in the first round this year. 6'4", 308 out of Michigan, A for impact block. And he's great to elite in 4 out of the 6 categories with good to great for speed, although the strength might be his downfall. But we'll see what his arm length is, as that 6'4", that might be considered a little bit smaller for a tackle, but I mean, we just need linemen, so even if he can play guard, we'll take that as a win. Also, round 1 to 2 projection here in Mike Holloman out of Notre Dame. A for pass block as a pass protector, so you would hope so. And decent athlete overall, some blemishes there, but I think George Jackson and then these 2 guys here at left tackle, Levi Falk and Will Hall, those are the big 3 for us that we're going to be targeting in this year's draft. So hopefully end up with one of those in the first round, depending on how they grade out throughout the season. But with that, offensive tackle definitely could be our focus scouting for national. Now looking at D ends. Another area we could look at, DJ Carter. I'm not super overwhelmed with him. D Blockshed, which you don't really like in a round 1 pass rush type guy, but does have great to elite for jumping, acceleration, good to great, most of the other categories. But C for power move, and I know he is a speed rusher, but you just wish he was more polished at that vicinity of the draft. And then Ben Foster, another speed rusher, 6'3", 266. Maybe a little bit better athlete with that great to elite change of direction, good to great in a few other categories. But neither of those guys I'm really super leaning towards as a first-round pick, but I still would like to have them scouted just to see. And then at right end, we have a few more pass rushers here. Kentrell Sanborn out of Miami. We saw him, I think, a top 10 pick in that mock draft. Good to great in pretty much every category besides speed and strength, which are both solid to good. B for play rec, D for stamina, so a decent prospect. Josh Cooper, Ohio State. I think he was a top 5 pick in that mock draft as well, Looks to be a very good athlete, but just D for block shed. So again, I don't know if we would target him as high as he's projected. Eric Oliver, A finesse move out of Temple. Looks to be a pretty good athlete, but again, got to see what that block shed comes back as. So a lot of quantity here at D end, and even some of these guys would translate to D tackle just based on their weight. So I think D end might be an area we focus, maybe offensive tackle, but even offensive tackle, we already have Jackson 25%. We have Falk 35%, Hall 25%, and also Jacoby Bowden and Jalen Boley here, two other first-round guys, at least based on projection. And one of them is 35% scouted, whereas at D end here, just all these guys 20 or 25% scouted. And I think that is a strength of our national scouts. So D end might be the spot, if not maybe D tackle, as those are probably our three biggest needs: offensive tackle, D end, and D tackle, maybe even corner. But breaking it down by region, we have 3 out of our 4 regional scouts focusing in on the corner position, so not really something we need to look at. And the top D tackle here on the national board, Joe McGee out of Wisconsin, 6'1", 307 power rusher with B finesse move. So being a power rusher and having a B finesse move is a very balanced skill set. With B play rec, you just really wonder what that block shed would come back as, but McGee looks to be a good prospect. And we like Tyrone Springs here out of Oregon State, 6'4", 285. Great to elite in acceleration, agility, and speed. Great to good jumping and strength, and good to solid in change of direction with A awareness, B play rec so far. So already has that veteran savvy to him. And Mitchell Walker looks to be a decent prospect out of LSU as well. But linebackers, we do like Colt McCormick and J.J. Townsend here as 2 potential pass rushers as a D end in our 4-3 scheme. Both guys there in the SEC. Middle linebacker, nothing really here. The top guy projected around 3 to 4. So we're happy we got Jerry Sexton when we did, and also Tashawn Gross last year, a 3rd-round linebacker out of Arizona State who we think will develop into a nice player. And then on the outside here, 2 more pass rushers, really 3 more if you include Taylor Goddard. So linebacker might have more pass rushers featured than the D end positions do, but even being so, our national scout has better expertise at the D end positions. And as I said, our corner spots are being scoured by most of our regional scouts, so we're just going to leave it to them. There's a draft story here on Ray Underwood, how he made a big Heisman caliber play, and he looks more like a receiver out there than cornerback, but a zone guy at 5'11", 183 out of Indiana. B for press, B for zone, with great to elite agility, then good to great for acceleration, but then just solid or decent the rest of the way. So we'll see what he comes back as, but looks to be a very weak cornerback class with a ton of guys here clustered in like the rounds 2 to 4 range. So we'll really see how it plays out after scouting. I'm glad we poured the resources into that position. And then at safety, there are a handful of round 1 to 2 type guys here. Maybe one of these guys can translate to be a nickel corner for us as we look to upgrade our cornerback spots, but we're just going to put that one on the back burner. So with that being said, I think for our national scouting, we're already pretty set at tackle, offensive tackle, and I think I said our scout has expertise at the D end position. So we're going to come over to our scouts, or our region breakdown rather, and we're going to set our national focus scouting from wide receiver last year. Like I said, we did draft 3 wide receivers, and we're going to instead put that to D end, as our national scout is expert at offensive tackle and defensive end. And now looking ahead to next week, we're going to host the 4-3 Los Angeles Rams, as our Salt Lake City Snowhawks have improved to 3-5 after a huge win there against the Baltimore Ravens. And with that, also Christian McCaffrey suffered broken ribs there on that final drive, as he is set to miss our next 4 to 5 games. We'll see how he comes back, but we're going to play the full game next week against the Rams, and then we'll see how it goes from there. Maybe sim ahead a little bit and then try to wind down this year 4 season. But this is where I'm going to leave you folks. Thank you so much for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm glad we had that win, as we can get some positivity here in this franchise. It's been few and far between, as Will Evans will be the quarterback next week. The Rams signed Bryce Young to a huge contract despite Evans being the 2nd leading passer in the league last year. Another quarterback from that Lucas McDonald draft class, 43 touchdowns to 20 interceptions last year, now 18 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, as he's really emerged as one of the top young passers in the league. So I hope you tune back for that episode as we have our work cut out for us again against a very, very tough division opponent, as we're going to try and take down the Los Angeles Rams and get our first division win in this year 4 season. But as always, everybody, it's been real and be well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.